Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another, well, I was going to say exciting episode of the Howdy Beans podcast, but this is more of a kind of, Luke, what you doing, what are you doing that for, have you gone mad sort of episode, to be honest. But it should be interesting, we'll see. But this is the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Elder Bean. Hope you're doing well, hope you're all good and all that jazz. Today, we're going to be carrying on my £5 bargain or bin game review series where I look at video games that have been on sale that I've got physically, either at like a charity shop or a games shop like CEX, things like that, car boots, or I've managed to get cheap on the Xbox store for about £5 or under, just to see if they're worth the bargain, if I've actually got a game that's actually worth £5, or would I pay more, or is it a game that belongs in the bin? And today, considering a lot of people I've said online would really say this game belongs not just in the bin, but in the dump, on fire, forgotten forever, next to E.T. the Extraterrestrial on the Atari. But without sort of further ado, I'm just going to get straight into it. Today, I'm going to be looking at Lord of the Rings Gollum from 2023. I know. I can hear you. I know. I get it. Simple reason is it was on sale, and it was on sale for £2.30, which for some people that's too much, and I completely agree. But the thing is with me, I am a very curious person. Now I get it. Curiosity killed the cat. We've all heard it before. It's a true statement, right? It's a very true statement. But when it comes to content creation, when it comes to having a podcast, especially when you have a podcast, when you do reviews on games that are £5 or less, sometimes you kind of bite the bullet and be like, you know what, let's give it a go. It's only £2. I'm not going to miss £2, to be honest. And it's the cheapest I've ever seen it. And I remember it went on sale for £8, and I remember saying to Chat Tsunami, I'm basically saying to him, like, oh, go on, shall we do it? And we were both looking at each other and went, nah, £8 is too much. So when I saw it was on sale for like £2.30, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll give it a go. What's the worst that could happen? Well, we'll get there. We will get there. I haven't completed the game yet, but it feels like I've been there for a long time. But I'll get into that in a minute when I talk about my experience of the game so far. But yeah, so that's why I'm looking into this game. But I also find it incredibly ironic because I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. I read the Silmarillion for fun. Granted, I've only ever read it once, and I'll be honest, I don't understand everything in it. And like the Silmarillion is not a book that you read. It's more of a Bible. It's more of a tome. It's more of a reference book. It's more of something that you read and that you come back to for certain beats of the first age of Morgoth and all that. So, I'm a big Tolkien fan, and I find it incredibly ironic that for the podcast, I haven't done the movies, haven't done The Hobbit. I've got the extended version on 4K Blu-ray of the original trilogy. I didn't even bother to look at the animated movies from like the 70s and 80s. I decided I'm going to start with Gollum. Why not? And to be honest, I'm going to be completely fair right now. When I first heard about this game back in 2000, I think it was 2022, 2021, whenever this game was announced. When I first heard it was announced, I won't lie, the concept interested me because what we were sold on was the idea that you are going to be playing a game as Gollum and you're going to be sneaking around Mordor, you're going to be sneaking around potentially Middle-earth. Again, we was thinking the Shire, the Lonely Mountains, dodging orcs, dodging goblins, hunting down Baggins and things like that. Like, that was what we were sold on, or at least I was sold on that idea. And it was going to be like you sneak around, you sort of not assassinate, but like you sneak up on enemies and you get up behind them and you throttle them and stuff like that. You knock them out and you get a rock in your hand maybe and animations and stuff like that. That's what I was sold on, like a sneaky sort of experience, like sneaky hobbits sort of thing. And what we got is not. It's basically Escape from Butcher Bay, but less interesting and less cool and no Riddick, to be honest. Yeah, it's one of those where it's like I knew it was disappointing going into it, but playing it myself, it's one of those where you're like, oh God, this is incredibly disheartening because this is not what was sold to us. I sold was a Gollum game, but I'm actually not playing a Gollum. I'm playing Prison Simulator, basically. But I'm happy to be with Gollum in Middle-earth at the same time. But yeah, I put 7 hours and 18 minutes according to the Xbox into this game, and I'm still in prison. I'm doing hard time, and it sucks, to be honest. But that obviously we'll get onto my experience in a minute. As for sort of the plot of this game, so the plot goes as follows: in the year 3017, so 317 of the Third Age, 66 years after Bilbo Baggins obtains the One Ring from Gollum in the Misty Mountains, Aragorn captures Gollum in the Dead Marshes and turns him over to Gandalf. Gandalf had reached the confines of Mordor in 2980, meeting Shelob, who is the giant spider. Gollum retells the events of the previous 5 years to Gandalf. In the year 3012, Gollum is in Mordor. He follows a bird into Mount Doom. Gollum follows several orcs and attempts to ambush them, although he himself is easily taken down by the orcs. 3 Nazguls then surround Gollum and force him into telling them that Baggins took the One Ring to the Shire. And that is the simple premise of the game. And then from there, you are basically in prison for the rest of it, really. And kind of sucks. But, before we get to there, a little bit of the development. So, the development of Lord of the Rings Gollum was marked by multiple delays, a troubled production, and ultimately a negative reception from players and critics. No shit. The game was initially announced in 2019 with a planned release in 2021, but it faced several delays, eventually releasing in May 2023 for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, with a Nintendo Switch version following later. The game's developer, Daedric Entertainment, has since shifted its focus to game publishing, citing the poor reception of Gollum as a contributing factor. Again, no shit. Key aspects of the development. So, initial promises. So, the game aimed to explore Gollum's story from a unique perspective, staying true to the sort of J.R. Tolkien sort of lore and books. Again, that's what was sold on it, but that's not what we got. Multiple delays. Again, I've already mentioned them. Negative reception by nearly everybody. Reported internal issues. So there have been some reports of a toxic work environment, mismanagement, and a lack of funding during the game's development. It also had the It's Magic project. Prior to the announcement of Gollum, Daedric was also working on a second unannounced Lord of the Rings title, codenamed It's Magic, which was also cancelled. Focused on publishing, Daedric stated that they would be focusing on publishing games from now on, and the game, the development was definitely rocky, and it really affected the studio. What gets me, and again, we're going to talk about my sort of experiences so far, which is the thing you're almost interested in. What gets me is the fact of the Tolkien license, the Tolkien estate. Then again, I don't mean to throw shade at the Warhammer estate. But unlike the Warhammer estate, who basically throw the license at anybody who has an idea. Again, if you played any Warhammer game, they vary in quality. Some are really, really good and some are really, really bad. They just throw the license to whoever is interested. Unlike the Warhammer one, the Tolkien sort of estate is very, lack of a better word, stringent. They're very sort of like, well, this is ours. We're only going to give it out to those who we feel like will be sort of faithful and cherish it and look after it as much as we love it. And so far you've got like Peter Jackson and Amazon and things like that. And they don't tend to give it out, like WB as well, like with the Shadow Mordor games and one of the great games that I feel like was underrated for Lord of the Rings was War in the North, which is a brilliant free-player co-op sort of game. You could play it on your own, but it was a brilliant game. I always played as the dwarf. But apart from that, they hold it very much to their chest. They don't give the license out. So my question is, what kind of money, magic, persuasion, or something did Daedric Entertainment do to go to the sort of Tolkien sort of estate and go, we want to make a Gollum game? It must have been lies, or they must have sold them a different premise to what we originally got. Because I feel like if what the final piece of Gollum that we all played, well, majority of us played, what none of us played really, because the game did so badly, apart from me, who's currently playing it now for some unknown reason. If it's the game that I'm playing right now, then if I was a Tolkien estate, I'd be like, no, go away, never contact me again. Because again, what I'm playing is not what was sold or what I was originally sold when I'm watching the trailers of the idea. When you ever looked at them talking about the game was sold completely different to what we got, which was Prison Simulator, and that's not Gollum, Lord of the Rings. And like I said, I was interested, because why wouldn't I be? I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. I love Lord of the Rings. I love Gollum. I think he's an absolutely fascinating, underrated well, not underrated, but like underappreciated character in literature. Like he's appreciated because if you've watched the movies, but when you read the books, which I've read the Lord of the Rings books quite a few times, there is so much more heart to Gollum and to his relationship with himself, with Smeagol, and the ring's effect on him. Like even Frodo saw that there was good in him, and there was potentially of being good in him. Even Gandalf had hope that there was always going to be redemption for Gollum and for Smeagol. And if you watch Lord of the Rings, you can even see at the very, very end at Return of the King, there's 3 eagles get sent, one for Sam, one for Frodo, one for Gollum, because there was always that belief that there's potentiality that Gollum, it can be redeemed, that he's not all evil. You know what I mean? So there's all this hope and sort of lore around this character. It would be fascinating to explore that, to see what he was doing, during the events of losing the One Ring to when he finally catches up with Frodo in the Mines of Moria. So for me, I was interested in that, and then the idea of it's being stealthy, which again made sense because Gollum, he's not a fighter. He hides in the shadows. He sort of gets you when you're not looking or if you're asleep. He hits you over there with a rock and that sort of things. Like he's tricksy. You know what I mean? Like that's how he is. And again, as I was playing this game, many times I was doing the hobbits is dirty, filthy, sort of voices because you can't help not do it. That's my impression of Gollum, by the way. So I've been interested in it, and then to play the game was what I've played so far. I've played 4 chapters. I'm on chapter 5 at the moment. In total, there's 10 chapters. Like I said, I've put 7 hours into this game. It feels like it's one of those where like I kept playing because I was hopeful that the game would change. Like I'd be in prison for the first 2 chapters because again, fine, I got captured in Mordor. I'm a slave to the orcs, to the Uruk-hai, to the mouth of Sauron, and all that. Again, fine. No problem with that. But I thought, okay, eventually we'll move, get out of there. But I haven't. I'm 5 chapters in. I'm still there. I was on my way getting out, and then they threw me into the sewers, and now I'm having to escape the sewers with this random bloke. Well, he's not. Well, he is random because I don't think he's actually in the lore at all. He doesn't. No, I don't think he is. So he's like this new character that I don't really care about, that I'm only really using to help me get out of there. And now I'm having to fight to hide away from spiders because there's a lot of spiders and Sheila trying to hide from her. So it's one of those where like most things I'm doing in this game is it's jumping puzzles. I'm jumping from one platform to the next. Like there's so many problems. There's no animations. Like when you die, there's no sort of death animation or anything like that. It's sort of like end screen sort of thing. If you get caught by there's no sort of animations for that. If you get caught, end screen. For some unknown reason, every time I die, I have an Uruk-hai going for no reason. Even though I'm on my own, I'm in a dungeon and there's no one around. Just every time I die, I've got Uruk-hai shouting. And there's, oh God, what else? The camera's terrible when I jump around. So like it makes the jumping parts even more of a nightmare. There are parts when Gollum sometimes will grab things and sometimes he won't grab things, but you'll never know if he does or he doesn't because he'll do it 9 times and then the 10th time he'll go, I don't want to grab that. And then he'll just fall and die. The checkpoint system is terrible. So when you do die and fall off a cliff for no reason whatsoever, the game will just take you back to ages ago. So you've got to do the whole jumping puzzle again. I had this one moment when there's this new guy being added to the lore. He's not in the books. He's called the Candleman, and he has a daughter. And basically, his daughter is trying to figure out what his dad's working on, and what his dad's working is trying to find like Baggins and stuff like that. And there's this one orc that knows where the Baggins is and what's going on. So you have to beat his daughter all the way over to this one orc, and then you've got to climb up this wall before this elevator gets there. So that's a nightmare on its own. So that took me forever to do. And then when you finally get up there, you've got to throttle this guy. You've got to stay behind him, and then you've got to grab him, and then you've got to sort of press Y. Nowhere in the game does it tell you have to hold down Y. So I'm there, having to button mash Y. That's not doing it. Gollum jumps off it. The guy turns around and strangles me again, and then I'm sent back all the way to the bottom of this really long and tedious cliff at checkpoint. And this happened about 5-6 times, by the way, until I finally tried what I button mashed. I've held it down. I even held it down a few times. It didn't work. Until finally I tried it, held it down for just as soon as I pressed Y, I just held it. I didn't move my thumb at all, just in case a little movement, taking a little bit of pressure off the button, wouldn't work. It finally worked. And then you had this number where you've got to run and jump. But if you run and jump too early before the game tells you to run and jump, Gollum would just not grab onto the netting and fall. If you jump too late, they see you, you end. So you've got to do it in the very specific time the game tells you to do and when to jump. Otherwise, Gollum will not grab onto anything, and then you just die. And there's many moments like that, and it's just a nightmare. But like I said, I'm still in prison. I have not left prison, and when I'm in prison, I'm doing bitch work. I go find these tags. Okay, you find these tags. Again, having to jump around and do a lot of things like that. I found these tags. Oh, okay. Go to bed. Okay, I'll go to bed. I come back. Go find some more tags. All right, go get these tags. Now what? Well, you're small. Go climb in that tunnel, and here's a redstone. And basically, there's a bomb at the end of it to clear the mine shaft. We just want you to put that in. But again, it's a really technical jump. So when you press the button, you've got to come back the way you came and get every jump precisely correctly right, even though the camera's against you. Otherwise, the explosion gets you, and you've got to do that all over. You've got to start from the beginning. You've got to go all the way back in, put it in, back all the way out. There's many moments like this. And like I said, I'm finally trying to escape prison. I was really, really close to leaving, and then the game was like, no, bitch slap. I'm in the sewers with this guy who can't swim. Who I have to use puzzles, which the puzzles aren't difficult. They're just tedious. These puzzles to kind of get the levels of the water up or down. I've got to do that, as well as I've also got to fend off from spiders. Like I can hide from them, but they're very sneaky. And the figure these are not like the orcs, by the way. These basically will chase you. So even if you stop climbing, they would jump off the walls and they would chase you. So once they've got you, you're screwed. And again, the checkpoint system doesn't help at all. There is an achievement to play this, complete this game without dying at all. That's absolutely impossible because the camera is non-responsive whatsoever. It's like playing the PlayStation 2 game at times. What else? Oh God, the orcs. The orcs, how could you get the orcs wrong? They don't look like orcs. Even the Uruk-hai don't look like Uruk-hai. They don't look like they should. They look like potatoes. They look like pigmen from Minecraft, in terms of the way they look. They don't look like orcs. And the armor is terrible. They're wearing cones. Again, I know Angry Joe made the example, but they look like Coneheads from the movie Coneheads. They don't look like orcs, like Uruk-hai. And like there are certain parts I'm like, okay, that looks like Middle Earth, that looks like Middle Earth. But then there are parts I'm like, that don't look good at all. This game's made in Unreal Engine. But I asked the same question here that I asked the question back when I was playing Werewolf Blood Amongst Us, whatever that stupid game was. I asked the same question there that I asked here. Where? You're using Unreal Engine. I don't know. Again, I don't think it's the newest version, but you're using Unreal Engine, right? Where have you used it? Because it doesn't look like it at all. It really does not look like, and there's many times where I'm looking around going, this game just looks terrible. Gollum looks good at times, but then other times he doesn't look good, and it's strange. It's very weird. This is my first impression so far. Like I've just been talking for about 19 minutes. I'm just ranting on, so you can imagine what the review is going to be like when I finish. Like a sane person would be like, no, what, screw it. I'm not playing this game. I'm not finishing it. Me, I'm gonna finish it. I am, because I'm stubborn, and I'm gonna finish it, and I'm gonna give you my full thoughts. I have no feelings whatsoever, by the way, no feelings whatsoever. This game's going to improve, because I feel like it's going to be exactly the same all the way through. Apparently, you do eventually leave prison and you find yourself in Rivendell or Mirkwood. I'm not sure. You find yourself in an elven encampment. Either way, and then that's it. To be honest, but I just feel like it's just going to be the same. It's going to be exactly the same. I don't see it going to be any different, to tell you the truth. But we'll see. There is also a moral system in this game as well, so that you can, again, it's kind of interesting, if you can call it interesting. It's a very basic moral system where you have like Gollum and Schmeagol, where they kind of fight for control of sanity. So you can kind of be like, convince Gollum that what you should do is the right thing. So Smeagol tries to be the good guy. So you've got to basically choose options and convince, and you've got to win the argument, sort of thing. And that's somewhat interesting. And there are other choices where you can answer as Gollum or you can answer as Smeagol. And the whole idea is meant to be choice and consequence, which again doesn't really affect anything. And then so I've just been playing the game as Gollum because at the end of the day, up until this point in Gollum, well, he's not really a villain, to be honest. I've never classed Gollum as a villain. He's misunderstood sort of villain or misunderstood sort of character. But you can either play it as good or bad. I'm just playing it as Gollum as the bad option because why not? You know, I'm playing Gollum, and you give me the option, so I'm going to go with the Gollum sort of option. You know, but yeah, so. I don't know. It's tricksy. It's very tricksy. They lies to us. They want to take. You know what I mean? Like I just feel lied to. I just feel deceived. Like I knew what I was getting into. I just feel very sort of like, like I feel like old man shouting at clouds, like "Damn you!" That's why. But I'm gonna finish it. I've been talking for about 21 minutes now, so I'm gonna sort of quickly wrap up this introduction. But I'm going to finish it. I'm going to see it to the end. And then when I come back in a couple of seconds for you guys, for me, it might be another month or two. We'll see. But when I come back, I'm going to give my thoughts and feelings. I don't feel like it's going to improve. And if it does, I will be incredibly impressed. But I don't feel like I will. And I don't think the game will improve. So we'll see. But until then, enjoy this little jingle. And I will see you all in a second. Oh God. Hello. Welcome back, everybody. That beginning should really set a standard for how I feel, and it's just going to get worse from there. Thank you very much for returning, for listening to this part of the review. I'm not, well, I'll just be honest. There's nothing positive that's going to be coming now. Nothing positive at all. I try to be positive as always. That's why I'm called the Howdy Bean podcast, because I'm full of beans, I'm full of joy, I'm always happy, I'm always positive, even things that probably don't deserve it. I always try to see the bright side of everything. But this game broke me. Like generally broke me. It made me ill. And I'm not just saying that to sound clever. Generally, it gave me eye strain and probably led to me having 2 of the worst migraines I've had this year so far. And I'll get on to as to why a little bit later. But yeah, first impressions going in, I'm just going to jump straight to the end by starting at the beginning. It's not worth your money. I am a fool to do your dirty work. Oh yeah, I play bad games so you people don't have to, because games like this, even though they're on sale, they're not worth it. And what's made me even more of sort of annoyed, because I completed it today as recording, but normally when I complete a game, I'll stew on it for a little bit, for like an hour or two, and then I'll get straight into it. Or depends if I really enjoyed it, I like to talk about, I'll jump straight in straight away. With this game, it gave me that bad eye strain and that, like, I just was like, I can't look at a screen. I had to take a good few hours off, had dinner and all that, and then I decided I'll crack on with it. But it was just... yeah, it's not worth the sale price at all. Even if this game was going for free, I would say stay away. So already I'm going to say, and I'm going to jump to the end, it's worth putting in the bin. It's worth, I wouldn't say forgetting, because nothing should really be forgotten, because that's a bit unfair to all the work that all the creators put into it. But still, it's worth going in the bin and just not thinking about for a while, because it's not good. It's not, and it really, really bothered me. And it bothers me not just because it's bad, but also because it's Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings, and it feels like someone spat in my face. Someone took something I love, spat in my face, and said, "Ha, take that, bitch." And it's like, whoa, where'd this come from? That's not fair. And it's just, yeah, like I had hopes that it would get better, and then there was glintings of it going to get better, and then it just got so bad. I was just like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But yeah, so like first impressions, it's not worth it. It really, really isn't. As I said, I was expecting, I was led to have the idea. So let's have a bit of cohesion. I've done a bit of the rant, and I'll do a bit more, but let's have a bit of cohesion, right? Let's compose myself. Okay, proper reviewer. So, as I said in the introduction, I was led to believe that this was going to be like Escape from Butcher Bay, that sort of thing, where you're playing as Gollum, you've got to sneak around places around Mordor and stuff like that, and you've got to avoid orcs, and you can sort of stealthily take enemies out, but you've mostly got to climb around and sneak about. And I was all here for that. I had no issue with that whatsoever, because again, that makes sense for the character, it makes sense for the world, and like if they tied into Gollum hunting Bilbo and the Precious and all that, then 100%, fine. I'm completely I like. My faith was mostly not just in what I was shown, but my faith was in the fact of, as I said, that the Tolkien estate do not give their license out willy-nilly. They'll only give it to you unless you can really prove that you're going to do something with it that's going to elevate the franchise, really, that's going to really do something good with it. To be honest, that's why you don't see many Lego properties out there. I know I haven't seen the Rings of Power. I've heard mixed things, mostly negative, but still, they only really give it unless you've really got a good idea, or there's something worth them giving you the property license. So I had that faith. And then obviously I saw all the reviews, and again, like I said, going into it, I knew that it was going to be negative. I knew that it wasn't going to be great. Like I've watched loads of reviews. I watched Angry Joe, his review on it was brilliant. But the review he did, I watched it before I started playing, just to kind of sort of refresh the idea of what people think, and kind of get myself into that mindset of being like, oh, this is what people think, but let's see what I think. And they're all right. They're all completely spot on. This game is a nightmare, and it baffles me that it was made, because it's one of those where you sit there and you think, why? Like, they must have really lied to the Tolkien estate, or whoever owns the license. They must have lied to them and said, oh, this is what we're going to do. And then as soon as they got the license, they went, let's get rid of that shit. Fuck that off. That good idea. We're doing this instead. Gollum is going to be a prisoner, and it's going to be tedious, and the camera's not going to work, and it's going to be so dark in some levels you ain't going to see nothing. But that's only because it's only in case you've got a HDR TV or monitor, which nearly everybody does. Every gamer does. So, if you get to those last few levels, you won't be able to see fuck all. And it's just like, what happened? What happened? You had, you had it in the palm of your hand. You had the ability to do something brilliant, to do something great, to really come out of nowhere, because it did. The Gollum game came out of nowhere. None of us was expecting it. It was announced. It came out of nowhere. We was all surprised. You had the people by the balls, you know what I mean? Like, you generally was like, people were on the cusp of like, this could be brilliant. And then only to fall so flat. It's like, why? What happened? What happened? Why? And I'm just confuzzled. I really am. So like, my first impressions are just, it's naff. It's terrible. It's like, I'm done. Like, this game defeated me. I'm no longer full of beans. My tin is empty. My beans have sauntered off. Like, I am a man with no beans and an empty tin on a wet, weak day. It's terrible. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to have with my toast? I don't know. I just feel defeated. And I've never been this defeated by anything before. Even the werewolf game, even though that, had its moments, there were still parts of, I can see what they were trying to do, a glimmering specks of hope and joy. This doesn't have that at all. And I don't like being negative, but I've got to be honest. If I didn't like something, I'm going to have to say that truthfully, I didn't like it. And it was not good, terrible. As for sort of like my thoughts on the story, so the idea and premise of this story, even though it's pretty stupid, and I do not count this as lore at all, or this does not connect to the canon, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm more than happy if we all come together as Lord of the Rings fandom to disown this child and pretend it doesn't exist and lock it in a cupboard. That's completely fine with me, however cruel that sounds, because this is not lore accurate to anything, like not at all. But so the idea behind this, after the events of The Hobbit, Gollum follows Bilbo and the dwarfs to the Lonely Mountain, but when he gets there, he realizes like there's a war going on, and Bilbo is hidden in this fortress. There's no way he can get in. There's no way he can see him. So he bides his time. So he goes off to Mordor, and when he gets there, he finds himself being trapped because Shelob the spider has trapped him there. Like, there's no way he can get out. So he's basically stuck there. So he's just biding his time. He gets caught by the mouth of Sauron, and Sauron interrogates him, being like, and again, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, you at the beginning of that movie, you hear it, he's like, Baggins, that scene. He basically screams like a canary, tells them about the Precious, about the One Ring, about where it is and that, and obviously the ring race go off to go find it, and then that starts obviously Lord of the Rings, the good stuff. No, we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on the shit, right? So get that out your head. We're focusing on the crap. So Gollum is now in prison, and again at first I was like, fine, he's in prison. Okay, cool. We're not going to be here long. Lies. Don't be so ridiculous. Of course we're going to be here forever. We're in prison. So I'm there and I'm basically just doing slave labor. Majority of it is, you've done this, as I said in the introduction, you've done this, you've got to go get these slave tags that have died. So you go and you do that. You do terrible jumping puzzles, right? So there's a lot of these jumping sections, but the problem is sometimes he wants to grab things, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes the game tells you, you can jump backwards. So you jump backwards and he just, because the camera's not quick enough to keep up with Gollum, he jumps backwards, and by the time the camera's gone back, he's just falling. And he's like, hold on a second, you said I could jump backwards. And it turns out there was a cliff or an edge that he could grab onto, or some sort of weeds he can climb up. He just decided not to grab them, so he fell. And there's an achievement for completing this game without dying at all. That is impossible. If it can be done, fair play to whoever does it, because I'm not strong enough to do it, because that game, it's not, it's winnable, but it's not winnable without dying. It's possible, but I don't want to do it. Like I said, this game made me ill just by playing it normally, so I don't want to do it anymore. But so you have that, so you're doing those jumping puzzles, you get all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, I do a few things. Some time passes, and then I've been there for about 4 years. Not again, the time does pass. You're there for a year, and then the time 3 years pass, so 4 years in total, thereabouts. I think it was about 4 years. Either way, doesn't really matter. I'm there for a long time. I'm there longer than I should be. So for 4 or 5 chapters of this game, which is half, I'm in prison. The next few chapters, when I eventually break out, and the breakout is kind of cool. So the breakout, you've got this guy called the Grisha. I think that's how I'm pronouncing his name. He's like Hodor, best way to explain him. He's one of the desert tribe sort of people, and he's in prison. And you got as Gollum, you use him to get out, and you have the option to then sort of meet up with him again, and then the only way to escape is through Shelob's tunnel, which again, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, the better story. That is the tunnel that Gollum leads Sam and Frodo up those big winding stairs in the mountain and leads him through, and then gets him trapped, and then is hoped to sort of steal the ring. And so he leads sort of Gleb or whatever his name is. I'm just going to call him Hodor because it's easier. He leads Hodor bloke through, and the idea is I lead him through, Shelob will come, eat him, and then I'll escape. And so you leave him in a dark place. You say, stay here, I'll be back for you. You go off and you see the spider. And then it's this really cool, it's kind of tedious, but it kind of reminds me of Crash Bandicoot, when you had the boss levels and you had to run away from the boss and you had to jump over pits and stuff like that. It's reminiscent of that. It's almost basically spot on. So you're running away from that. It's done into 2 sections, and then that was really, really fun, I'll admit, and I did enjoy that. And then you get given the option, right, to either save him or sacrifice him. And to be honest, at this point, because again, leading up to getting to this point was a nightmare, right? There was one section where if you touch the floor at all, you die. But you have to land perfectly. And again, he doesn't land, sometimes he'll jump and he'll jump a tiny bit. And then sometimes you press a jump button and he does a super Hulk jump. And I'm like, why are you jumping so much? And then you overshoot. And you like I said, many times you try to jump for a ledge, he won't grab the ledge, he'll jump over the ledge, and then you'll jump on the other side of the platform and fall to your death. Or he'll do a weak jump and you won't even reach it, even though you're right next to it and he could jump God's sake. So there was a big tedious section where I'm on these carriages, and then you've got to dodge things. You've got to go to the side because there's wooden, for some unknown reason on this bridge, there's wooden beams. So you've got to jump to the left. You got to jump to the left, hang off the left, so then the wood goes over the top, and then you've got to jump over, go to the right again, do the same thing there, or you've got to jump over these bits of wood and stuff like that. So that's a nightmare. If you touch the floor at all, like I said, the checkpoint features absolutely busted. You do all that, and then you basically get to this guy, and then you sneak around some people, and then you can lead him in. And at that stage, I was just like, I can't be asked to go through more of this game or more tedium to save him. If it's quicker to leave him and to run away, that's what I would do. And even though I've got nothing against the guy, like he didn't mean, like he does, he means, or he's all right. Like he means no harm. It's just the fact of I was that pissed off. I was like, I am not going to play any more of this section than I need to. I'm going to leave him so I can get to the next chapter. And I did. I left him. He died. The spider had her meal. I'm out of Mordor. Only get trapped by some elves. And it was at this stage where I thought, okay, it's going to get interesting. No. No. You find yourself in Mirkwood. You find yourself with the elves. You're in prison. Gandalf is there, which I know it's meant to be Gandalf, but he doesn't really look like Gandalf. But again, like I said, the orcs don't look like orcs, and the only person that actually looks like themselves is Gollum. But even then, I would say it's like sort of very sort of cheap sort of Gollum, from Sheen Gollum. Golem, or whatever you want to call him, because he's not Gollum, he's Golem, or he's something else than Gollum. Anyway, so Gandalf is interrogating you, and again, he wants to know about the One Ring again, because this is before the events of like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, so he's out looking for clues about the Ring of Power and all that. Again, interesting, but not the story that we're focusing on, sadly. So Gandalf basically goes, and then you're in this sort of, for the next 5 chapters, you're in like this in Mirkwood, and I thought, okay, it's going to be more interesting because when you're in Mordor, it's you're in prison, it's bland, and like as I said, it doesn't feel like this game's made for Unreal. I think it's muddy. I think it's terrible. It looks like an old, cheaply made 360 game. And I'm just sitting there going, oh God, please, this is so boring. I don't want to be here. And so when you get to Rivendell and you see, I'm not Rivendell, when you get to Mirkwood and you see all the elves and the elvish architecture, I perked up a bit because I thought, oh, okay, this looks like Unreal. I'd like to hope and like to think that the developers, when they made the first few levels, realised, okay, this game's a bit repetitive and boring and mind-numbing. Let's sort of change to tack, because it has happened before. I'm sure I've reviewed games where you can tell where the developers have realised things are boring and tedious for like the first few levels, and then they completely remove the tediousness in the last few levels. You can tell they made changes as they were going through development. Sometimes it's noticeable, sometimes it isn't, and I was hoping for that. No, really, it's the same shtick. The only difference is you're in a different place. You've still got sneak past guards. This time you're sneaking past elves, apart from orcs. The thing is, it makes no sense for the lore because elves have way better hearing and way better vision. So they would see you in the dark. They would see you crawling up the walls. They would hear you. They would see you under tables. They'd see you in not really long grass, but in the flowers. Like Gollum's sneaky, but like like the elves would catch him and see him. They'd know he was there before he knew they were there. You know what I mean? Like these are the elves, okay, we're talking about sort of thing. But somehow I'm sneaking past them because I'm like the best sneaky bloke ever. Like I'm as quiet as a mouse, even though every now and then Gollum's going, Trixie. You know what I mean? Like, no, they would have caught me dead to rights a long time ago. So you sneak past them. You meet a blind girl named Mel. Mel's quite lovely. And you end up helping her escape and getting through Mirkwood. I'm not going to go through the tedium because, again, it gets really boring. And then so you get to the end, you meet the Candleman, who isn't in the lore at all. He's a new person that's been made for this story. He basically works in Mordor in the prison. He's basically like the warden, basically. I think he's the warden anyway. And he basically, he's after you because he's after the One Ring for himself. So he invades Mirkwood with some orcs, and you do all that, and then you get this, like you get to the end, big sort of fight scene. You dodge these. You have this like linear path you have to follow where he's firing bolts at you. So you fire a bolt, you get behind a piece of cover, and then you come out hiding and you run around. And eventually you do all that, and you think, okay, I'm going to kill him now. No, it's a cutscene. I don't even get to do it. I don't even get to throttle him. I don't even get to press a button. There's no even quick time event. They kill the villain off, like in a credit scene off screen, so I don't even get to see it. Really, I just hear him gurgle, and then Gollum sort of walks away, and I'm like, okay, that's done. And then I get to the end. I get a choice between kill the bird, save the bird, and that basically defines if I'm going to play. If it's basically lets Gollum take over or Schmeagol takes over, and that's it. Really, that's your lot. There's not much to it. Like there is, because how long it takes to get through it, but really there's not much to the story, to be honest. Like, there are other parts, but it's not really important because it doesn't matter, because it's not canon. It's all shit, basically. I don't think I've actually ever sweared in a podcast this much since my first year podcasting. I'm usually pretty good at this, but I just can't help it. I'm just full of rage, to be honest. I'm just there. Yeah. So that's the story. Annoyed me a lot because I didn't my achievement, like, it's 90 game score for completing this game. So I thought, okay, I chose to be Gollum. I chose the Gollum choice because at the end of the day, this is not law. I don't really care. I just want the game to end. So I figured, well, what would Gollum do? He'd kill the bird. So I killed the bird, thinking, okay, he's killed the bird. Where's my achievement? Didn't pop. Okay, there's another cutscene. It ends so funny, right? So so I've always wondered, but it's never really bothered me, because again, it doesn't matter, because again, my headcanon was always better than whatever this is. So how it ends? So you do the thing with the bird, and then it goes, oh, some weeks later, and Gollum is walking in this sort of underground place. You don't really know where it is at first. He's walking around it, and he's being really loud, and there's skulls, and he's kicking the skulls away, and they're making loads of noise. And then he goes to a door, and he can't get the door. He's pushing on it. He's trying to push the door, and then he just kind of slumps there, and he's like, oh. And then the camera pans out, and it's the door into Moria. Again, I love Moria. Moria is one of my most favourite places in Lord of the Rings. That's my favourite part of the Fellowship. It's my favourite part in all of Lord of the Rings. My favourite part of the movies, my favourite parts of the books. I just love when they go into Moria. It's just my favourite. But what really pissed me off was the fact of he's in Moria. So, like, and this is what annoyed me. Merry, right? He knocks over something, and he gets absolutely penalized and degraded by Gandalf for making the smallest amount of noise, because he wakes the horde, right? He wakes the orcs, right? In Moria, Gollum's walking around shouting. There's echoes, right? And he knocks a skull out of the way, and he makes the loudest crash and bang. Doesn't give a shit. Doesn't care at all. You know what I mean? But it's not just that's annoyed me. It's also annoyed me the fact of you're telling me the reason why Gollum was in Moria was because he went in there and he couldn't get out, so he was just there, and that is why in the Fellowship of the Ring he's there on the steps following them, and Gandalf's like, we're being followed, and then you get that scene of his eyes and stuff like that. Like, no, that's bullshit. Gollum wouldn't. Why would he walk into Moria to cut through? And then stay there. He would just leave and then go round, go on the mountain pass, or he'd go a different way. It just makes no sense. And none of this game makes sense. I don't even know why I'm trying to justify it, because none of this makes sense at all. So yeah. As for sort of, like I said, I've already mentioned the gameplay. One thing I want to talk about is why this game made me ill. And gave me migraines, gave me eye strain. Like, I wear glasses, but trust me, this game really, really hurt me and made me ill. And I'll explain why. So the thing with this game is the fact of it's at sometimes it's very, very dark. And I couldn't figure out as to why, because I was watching reviews online, and people were like, had their bright, they could see everything. They were in the same place where I am, and they could see loads of detail. It was really bright and looked really, really good. And I'm thinking, well, why is it so dark for me? Why can't I see nothing? So I got the gamma. I raised the gamma on the game, so the brightness. Still, it was like it didn't do anything. I put up to the max, and it was still dark. I still couldn't see anything. The only time I could see anything is where Gollum has his like Batman vision, basically, where like he can see in the dark. Which you'd think once you press the button that would always be on. No. If it only works when you're not moving, as soon as you move, it turns off. So it's a nightmare, right? But it wasn't much of an issue. Like these dark places, there was light, there was torches and things like that. So even when it was dark, I could still sort of know where I had to go and figure my way out. Where I got to a nightmare and where I started getting ill is at the very, very end, the last 2 chapters where you're in Mirkwood. Now, I get it, Mirkwood, it's meant to be dark. It's a dark forest. I get it, but not this dark. This is ludicrously dark. So dark where I feel like there is no bait map lighting in this at all. I'm using game design speech now. There's no bait lighting in this at all. It feels like there's no light source. There's nothing. It's just dark. And I'm sitting there, like, I'm having to get close to the screen to really look because I can't see. I'm having to up the brightness. I'm having to put the brightness of my TV. That's not doing nothing. If anything, it feels like it's making it worse because it's making the black like grey. And what I ended up having to do was I had to hold down the left stick for Gollum to go in his sort of night vision mode. I'd have to do that, know where I was going, run there, quickly press it as he was moving, and I'll just have to keep pushing that button. I don't know if I'm supposed to break the LB button on my controller because I'm having to press it constantly to see where I'm going. There was one section that was so dark while I'm also being chased by orcs, and there's orcs surrounding me and I've got to get away. And it's one of those where it's like, that was a nightmare because I couldn't see anything. So I'm having to run, press the button, look around, but I can't stop to see where I'm going. I just have to hope I'm going the right way. I got caught multiple times. I'm doing jumps that are not, sometimes are working for sometimes and I'm getting caught, and I'm doing it a second time round and the jumps are not working. And I was like, why is it so dark? Why is everybody else I'm seeing online, haven't got this issue? And this is what led to the eye strain, and this is what led to the migraines, because I'm having to focus so hard on this game and doing it so much. I'm having to get close to the screen because I can't see. I can't figure out why. And in the end, I'm like, there has to be an issue. There's got to be something wrong. I've done a bit of Googling online. It turns out there's a technical fault with this game. And now all gamers are screwed with this. Everybody is. If you play on a gaming monitor, if you've got a decent TV, or not even a decent TV, just a modern TV, to be honest, because all modern TVs have HDR. But apparently there's a technical issue with this game. So if your TV or device, whatever you're using, has the ability to have HDR, high dynamic range, which again most TVs do nowadays, basically it has an issue where the game, because with HDR, it can't register the lighting levels. So it just registers the light as extremely dark. So what I ended up having to do, and again, this caused migraines and pain as well. I had to go onto my settings on my TV, had to turn off HDR on my TV, had to go into the settings on the Xbox, had to turn off HDR support on that, as well as I had to put there's a mode on the Xbox where you put it on for eye strain, for eye comfort, and it changes the heat and heat levels and heat colorizations of your screen so that it's easier on the eyes. Had to change that. Had to mess around with a lot of things. Luckily, I know how my TV works, how my Xbox works. So I could change it all back. But to do all of that just so I could see what I was doing. But even then, it was only a slight, and when I say slight, I mean a slight difference, to the point of where I could at least see more. I could see outlines. I could see, at least I could see where I was going. There were paths. I could at least see. Like when I say it was dark, like I am exaggerating a little bit. Like you can see details, but what I mean by this, how dark it is the fact of it shouldn't be this dark. Like there is light sources, and it feels like I'm in a cave. You know what I mean? Like it's just really, really dark, and I need a light, but no one's giving me a torch. You know what I mean? And then when I managed to do all that, it was only like a really minimal sort of difference. And this again leads to the pain in the eyes, because that's not comfortable on the eyes at all. And that kind of led me almost to saying, "Fuck it, I'm not playing this game," because the migraines were that bad. I was getting nauseous. I felt ill. It put me out of commission for about 2-3 days. And it almost affected me at work as well. So it's just not worth it. So if you're a gamer, you're screwed, because whether you're a hardcore gamer or not, everything has a HDMI. So that's a nightmare for the end of the game. I've managed to turn it all back on now. It's all working fine. But it's just, I've never had that issue before, but apparently it's a technical issue with the game that they never bothered to update. Because I remember with this game, they did loads of updates with this game when it came out to fix a lot of the issues. That was obviously one of them that they didn't fix. Don't fucking know why, because it's one of the big glaring issues. But then again, if you look at the achievements, most people didn't get past chapter 4. Most people gave up after chapter 4, because every time I got an achievement after that was like a rare one, and they were going. It went from like 10% down to like 7 to 3 to 2. And I'm like, oh, it's nice to know I'm one of the rare few people that complete this game, but also I don't like it at all. So yeah, the game made me ill, generally made me ill. And any game that makes you ill is not worth it at all. So yeah, that's a recommendation of not giving this game a go. As for the art style, again, I can see that it's trying to look like it's trying to look like Middle Earth. It's trying to look like Mordor. It's trying to look like Mirkwood, and I can see it. Like, yeah, I can tell it's Lord of the Rings, but at the same stage, it's not. Like it's like Uncanny Valley. It's like if I went to sort of, I don't know, I went to sort of discount Sheen, sort of, Lord of the Rings, where it's like I went online and I bought a Lego set from Sheen that was like from Lord of the Rings, but like we know it's meant to be Lord of the Rings, but it's not official. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those. It's the cheapy brand, the off price sort of brand of Lord of the Rings, and it's one of those where it's like, oh god, okay, and this is where I was saying, like, it doesn't feel like it's made in Unreal Engine. Gollum's, I guess he looks like, because again, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna do a Gollum game, Gollum needs to at least look like Gollum. And he does somewhat look like Gollum, but at the same stage, it's also like, no, not at all. The orcs don't look like orcs. I mentioned that in the introduction. They look like pigmen, but they just look terrible. The elves, the elves look like elves, to be honest. But again, it's a fact of they look generic elves. They don't look like Mirkwood elves. They don't look like Lord of the Rings sort of elves, Middle Earth elves. They just look like generic elves. So it's like the fact of, I know they're trying, but it doesn't look like what it's meant to, It's the same with like the architecture and that. Like, it looks like orcs, but this is not the orcs I know of. You know what I mean? These are not the orcs you're looking for, sort of thing. Like, this is just, it's not it. It's just not it. There are collectibles, but to be honest, it's not really worth it. You pick it up and like you might find a hook, and Gollum goes, "Oh, it's a hook. Oh, nice, good for catching fish." Yeah, Or you like you one of the best ones, which was I found by accident. I found a picture of Bilbo Baggins, and he was like, "Oh, Baggins is precious, not a very good likeness." I was like, all right, that's probably one of the best ones I found. The rest is just like bits of crap, bits of scrap metal, bits of twine that he finds, and I'm like, well, why am I collecting this shit? Why is Gollum collecting it? It's not, he hasn't got pocketses. You know what I mean? Like, he just got something to protect his modesty, So why is he collecting this crap? Why am I collecting it? What am I doing? I'm in prison. What am I doing? What am I going to do with it? Where am I going to store it? Prison pocket? No. I don't want to know what Gollum puts in his prison pocket. And if you don't want to know what a prison pocket is, you're a very innocent person. And I'm not going to explain it. Don't Google it either. Anyway, where was I? Overall thoughts, just don't do it. I think of it as this. I'll play bad games so you don't have to, all right? So I've played it, you don't need to. Even though it's on sale, don't do what I did and follow curiosity and decide to play this game because it's like £2, it's on sale. Just don't. If they find it, if you find it for free somewhere, don't do it. What this game needs to do, it needs to go into the desert with all the other copies, both physical and digital. I don't know how we're going to do it digital. We're going to stick them all on a big hard drive, and we're going to dig a big hole, and we're going to bury them in the desert next to Atari, and then we're just going to forget about it. It's going to pretend like it didn't exist. I'm going to try my best to pretend this did not exist. I'm just going to move on, and I'm going to keep it downloaded on my Xbox because I'm going to try and. Now my Xbox has been turned off and been off for a while. I'm going to try and turn it back on after I finish this and see if I can get my sort of achievement for completing the game sort of to trigger, because I didn't go for all that shit not to get my 90 score, get my 90 gamer score. Okay, so I want it, and I'm going to get it. So the game better give it to me, or I'm going to be very, very angry. You're going to see a mushroom cloud outside your window. It's me. I've just exploded with rage because I went for all that for nothing. It's just, no, give me. I deserve it. But yeah, overall thoughts, just don't bother. Don't. It's not worth it. And so that brings me to, is it worth the £5 entry fee? Fuck no. It isn't. It really isn't worth anything at all. This game, as I said, should be thrown in the bin. It is not worth it at all. It's not worth getting ill over. It's not worth the pain and the struggle and the sort of how much it hurts me as a Lord of the Rings fan, as a Tolkien fan. This hurts because, again, I don't like to be lied to. I don't like when I say that, I mean is I knew what I was getting into, but I don't mean to be lied to in terms of, you know, this is I was sold on this, and this is what we got instead. You know what I mean? I don't like the idea that they potentially fooled or lied to the Tolkien estate for them to get this license, because there is no fucking way that they had this idea and they were able to sell it to the Tolkien estate. It couldn't have been, and if it was, I don't know why they got the license, because I wouldn't have given it to them. I wouldn't have. And if I saw, and I would have checked up on them constantly. Be like, how is it? How's development? What have you done? I want to see dailies. Come on, I'll give you my license. Show me the product. And if they showed me even just a smidge of this, I'd be like, nah, shut shop. Either change it or I'm taking it off you. You know what I mean? No. So I just, yeah, I'm just deflated. I really, really am. I feel really, my beans have left me, and I'm just left thinking, what was the point? Content. That was it. I did it for content. Yeah. I did it for the views, which no one's going to listen to this. Like, if you got this far, thank you. But no one's going to listen to this. This is not going to do well on YouTube. It's not going to do well on Spotify. I don't even know why I did this. Curiosity. But yeah. Anyway, that's Gollum. Don't bother. It's terrible. I can't believe I did it, but I did. So you don't have to. All I can hear in my head is just that song. It's like, I'm a fool to do your dirty work. It's just, that's all I can hear in my song of like, I'm an idiot. Why did I do this? And you're probably thinking to yourselves, why did you do this, Luke? I don't know. I hate myself, obviously. But if I knew it was going to make me ill, I really wouldn't have. Generally, I wouldn't have bothered. If I knew it was going to be this bad with eye strain and stuff like, I'm not even playing in a dark room. It's in a decent room with decent lighting. But even then, I was just like, oh god, So yeah, not good at all. Not good. It was lied to us. It was tricksy. They lie. Baggins is lie. lie. So terrible. Anyway, I'm gonna go, because I've got nothing else to say and I feel like I'm rambling. So thank you very, very much for listening. If you got this far, that is. If you did, again, I greatly appreciate it. And again, if you did get this far and you haven't done yet, please, for my sake, for my pain, follow me on Twitter, howdybeans_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, if you want to comment that I'm an idiot for doing it, it's completely fair, but just make sure that you like and potentially subscribe, and then I'll be okay. And then if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to follow if you're not already, and then again to leave a comment down below with that one. And yeah, so I've been your host, Luke the Elder Bean. You've been listening to the Howdy Beans podcast, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.